This is Miro here, and today we're really excited to have the World Wildlife Fund's Erin Simon with us. And Erin heads WWF's Plastics and Business Division, and she is an expert on plastics packaging and material science, and one of my favorite people to talk to about anything having to do with plastic sustainability. She knows it all. So Erin, thank you so much for taking the time at the end of the year to chat with us a little bit.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
And so I wanted to ask, in 2019, WWF launched Resource Plastic, and it was an effort to help companies to be able to track and manage their plastics use across these really vast supply chains. And, there really wasn't any standardized means for companies having kind of a common language to understand where their plastics were coming from, where they were going. And so 2020 marked the 1-year anniversary of this wonderful effort. And I wanted to ask, what were some positive things that came out of that? What were some wins that you guys had that, make you feel hopeful that maybe we have a chance at tackling this plastic pollution crisis?
So, when we came into 2020, we had this big vision of grandeur. There were times in 2020 when I was worried that some of that wouldn't happen just because of what else we have faced in the world. But what was really important was to really create this method to measure the same way. So we could all be looking at things from an apples to apples perspective. And I feel like when we launched Transparent 2020 in June, it was this really powerful moment because for the first time we had not only created a methodology for how we are going to account for company footprints, but we also got to look at what those results told us. We're able to take immediate action moving forward. And so the biggest thing coming out of that report was we had data-driven steps that we're for companies to take to address their plastic footprint in a variety of different ways, whether it was through individual actions. One of the partners totally redid their public goals because their goals weren't really targeting where their impact was, whether it was about, actions around a material, right? The launch of the Polypropylene Coalition was supported by a number of resource members who have polypropylene and need to have better recycling of that. And then of course, the launch of the US Pact, which was about, which really was supported by resource members who saw that the US, which has like a 72% landfill rate, is an area that requires collective action for us to actually deliver on the systems change that needs to happen there. And that all happened like this year in the middle of a pandemic. And it happened really quickly because for the first time, we had a very clear picture of what was happening. I'm really excited to see as we broaden the use of that language, as we broaden the use of that tracker to sort of just be much more granular and representative with what we're doing, that like how quickly we'll be able to make more, I would say, positive and accurate, interventions in the system. And so this was just a glimpse of what we could do. And so I'm excited about the opportunity to kind of bring that further.
Looking forward to 2021, we're wondering what you're thinking about in the next phase of the work. And I've heard rumblings about even maybe a global negotiation over plastic. So I'd be curious what you think and what are you looking forward to?
I had my hair blown back, honestly, by the number of companies who moved from being anti talking about legislation to being like, all right, Erin, what do we need to do? I swear, I know I don't have that much hair, so it wasn't, but like, that was huge. And not only that, there was also this discussion of, as a global network, as the WWF network started to say, we need to have a global treaty on plastic pollution. As we were talking to companies about this, they were really supportive of that too, because they, for the first time, understand how important it is that they have good policies in place in order for them to be able to deliver on their goals, right? And so that's not just at a national level, that's also at this global level. So yes, what I see in 2021 is movement in this space, in this sort of public-private partnership towards progress, where companies are doing their part to put products in the marketplace that work in the system, and governments are doing their part to make sure that they are creating the principles and enabling a really efficient material recovery system that is funded, that has equity of access, right? That you and I have this, all of us have blue bins, and the same stuff goes in those blue bins. And it's really easy for us to do. It's not like some sort of decoder ring that's required every time we use it. It should just be super easy. And so I'm hoping that we start to see big movement in that area next year. We've got we've got the energy and the momentum lined up for it. So I think 2021 is where we're going to start to see some of that traction taking place. And honestly, from a policy perspective, if you think about systems change, policy, it could be the bottleneck, right? If we don't start that into motion now, and especially if I talk about the US landscape, by the time those investments from companies or into technologies start to roll into the marketplace, if we don't have the system itself set up to accept that, we're going to still be tripping over ourselves, essentially. Another thing I'm looking forward to is just advancing some of the thinking around how we think about equity and inclusion as a part of waste management. All of us had our eyes opened more and became more empathetic and understanding around the role we have to play in being more, equitable and just more conscious of all communities. And now I want us to turn around and do something with that information and not just, not let it be like a sidebar conversation, but really think about not only in Southeast Asia or areas where it's really easy to see how communities are impacted, but also in the US. How is plastic waste another environmental issue that disproportionately impacts those who have the least power to do anything about it, right?
Well, we can't wait to do stuff. And that makes us feel really hopeful that, someone like you who has all the insights of material science and where we can go with this feels good about it. So thank you so much, Erin, for taking the time. Happy holidays to you and
Happy
your
holidays.
family. And we hope to talk to you soon in the new year.
Absolutely. Have a great end of 2020.
Yeah.